Hello, everyone. Welcome to Down the Road. I just want to give you a little kind of a glimpse into what we're going to do today. Dakota Rudesill is going to join us. Dakota is a professor at Ohio State University, and he can give us some expertise on what's going on in Afghanistan, talk a little bit about what the actions have been and where we might be headed. Also, Kylie Hall is going to join us. Kylie is with the North Dakota Department of Health. We're going to talk about North Dakota's low vaccination rate. What's happening in our healthcare facilities. And trust me, we don't need to just look to the south and say the problem's there. The problem's right here as well. But first, it's a real treat for me. I get a chance to visit with Dick Bremer. Now, Dick is the voice of Minnesota Twins baseball on TV since 1983. I don't mean to make him sound old because the fact is that Dick was young when he took over. So let's bring him in and get a chance to visit with him. Dick, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Yeah, Joel, I'm not sure with all the other heavy topics you're discussing that I belong on this show, but we're happy to be on it.
Well, believe me, people are going to be glad that this topic is going to be on. Dick, the Twins this year. Let's talk a little baseball before we talk about why I asked you to come on, which is your book and everything that's going to happen this weekend with it. But Twins baseball, not the year many of us had hoped for.
No, I think what we've seen, though, over the last 3 weeks, a reminder of why we thought this team was going to be really good. It's amazing what happens when a baseball team gets good pitching, which the Twins have gotten over the last 3 weeks. And as a result, they've had a winning road trip, a winning homestand, with most of that 3-week period being spent against teams that are in first place, headed for the playoffs. And so I think as we look forward, unfortunately, here we are in August looking ahead to next year already. But as we look forward to 2022, I think there's some legitimate reason for optimism that this team will be a lot better next year.
The one thing about a year like this is you do get a chance to play players that you normally would have to take a look at the AAA level to evaluate. Some of these individuals that you guys have brought up from the minors are individuals that now you can say, hey, this person's got it, or this person's got the potential of having it. What have you seen so far when it comes to that, Dick?
Well, I think the first guy that comes to mind is Alex Kirilloff, who's hurt. But I think not just people in the Twins organization, people around baseball saw enough of him to realize this guy's going to be really good. I mean, like perennial all-star type good. Trevor Larnach struggled. They sent him down. But I think he still showed the Twins front office that he belongs up here, not down there. And in the case of each of those guys, I think you have to remember they were minor leaguers last year. There were no minor leagues. So I'm amazed in baseball that there haven't been more Trevor Larnachs who really fast-tracked because they didn't play any games last year to the big leagues. And in Larnach's case, he got off to a really good start, but then the league caught up with him. He couldn't adjust here yet. He will. And part of it is, of course, he didn't play competitive baseball last year like so many other young guys. So, but Nick Gordon, Bailey Ober, I think you can, Griffin Jacks, I think you can put out a pretty long list of people who've gotten their exposure up here now. The case of Ober and Jacks, really encouraging because the need is pitching, and they seem to be getting better and better and better. And the hope is that they'll be a part of the solution for next year.
See, I hadn't thought of that in all of our previous conversations, that there were, and there was no minor league baseball last season. And so that makes a difference. That makes complete sense to me now. When you look at the Twins last year and you look at them this year, there were many people that looked at the Rosario trade and some other things that happened and put question marks behind it. But the Twins last year were a power team. And, it's one of those live by the sword, die by the sword type things. And had the chance on Sunday to go watch the Minnesota Twins. And, there weren't a lot of hits up and down that lineup. We won. We won with walk-off fashion again, but is this team, we've talked about middle relief at times. We talk about some of the youth, but is this team as good of a hitting team as what it needs to be to compete at the major league level?
Well, I think it will be when everyone's healthy. I think we all know that this team is an infinitely more interesting team to watch and an infinitely better team when Byron Buxton is playing. Now, 2 years ago in 2019, this team did win the division based on its lineup and its power. If you look closely at what happened last year, and it was a shortened season, so you don't really want to make too much out of that, but they won the division last year because their bullpen was really good. And then a lot of those guys, the Tyler Clippards, Matt Whistlers, Sergio Romos, Trevor Mays, they went elsewhere. That was one of the biggest issues for the Twins. And again, this year, the Twins thought they would fill out the back end of their rotation with guys like Jay Happ, Matt Shoemaker, and it did not work well at all. Now, I think what we will see, and I expect the Twins to be pretty active in the free agent market on the pitching side of things in the offseason. But now you're going to have homegrown products, if you will, like Ober and Griffin Jacks, who might be in the spots we've seen veterans in the past to fill out the rotation in the hopes that Kenta Maeda will revert back to what we saw last year and the way he's pitching now. And then, hopefully have a much more competitive starting rotation and bullpen. And then the lineup, I think it'll be just fine. I think the way it's producing runs now is, again, a reminder of what could have been all season long. So I don't think as we look ahead to 2022, the run scoring is going to be the focus. I think it'll be on the pitching.
So, going back to Byron Buxton, during trade talks, there was a lot of this, a lot of that. Barros, obviously, Nelly Cruz leaving Twins favorite. On Sunday, I got to hear Twins fans' reaction to him, albeit in a different uniform, but they still, there's no question about that. But when you look at some of the trades that were made, I'd like your take on how we did coming out of that, if the moves were the right moves to make. Also, is Byron Buxton going to stay in a Twins uniform? Because there was a lot of talk about whether or not he wanted to be and whether or not he will be. And the backside of that, Dick, is whether or not if he keeps getting hurt, we should have him in a Twins uniform. So I know that's a lot on your table, but I'd love to get your take.
Well, I'll answer the second question first because I do believe Byron Buxton will remain a Twin. I believe that there will be, maybe not as publicly as was the case a few weeks ago, contract talks between the two parties will get renewed at some point. You could argue that one of the reasons Berríos was traded was it became apparent that the Twins would maybe only be able to afford one or the other, but not both Jose Berríos and Byron Buxton. I don't know that, but I suspect that they realize, the Twins front office realizes that as good as Berríos was, there are probably not too many people in the Red River Valley who would come down to Target Field to watch him pitch. There are people, I know there are, who will come a long distance to watch Byron Buxton play when he's in the lineup. This is an industry that is still reeling from last year when nobody sold a ticket. And as the Twins look ahead to 2022, I know that ticket sales are going to be a big concern, not just for the Twins, but for the Royals and the Yankees, everybody. And my goodness, if we had a more appealing drawing card than Byron Buxton when he's healthy. He proved in April he's on a very short list of supreme baseball players in this game. It's been an issue, of course, to keep him on the field, but he's most of the time, almost all of the time he's been on the injured list, it's because he plays so hard. And don't we want that? Isn't that part of the appeal? So I think Byron will be back. And my answer, I'm sorry, it was too long. Now I forgot the first part of your question.
well, the first part of the question really comes down to whether or not we came out of these trades well. Whether or not, the trades that were made and who you saw come back to us, whether or not you feel that they were good trades.
Well, I'm not a minor league prospect expert, but those who are thought the Twins did really, really well. It doesn't matter until they get into the system as they are now, start playing and pitching and see, how well they do and how fast the track is to get them to the big leagues. Now, Joe Ryan, whom the Twins got in the Nelson Cruz trade from Tampa Bay, was in Tokyo with the Olympic team when he was notified of the trade to Minnesota, pitched a couple of times for the Olympic team and pitched very well. We had a chance to put him on our telecast a few days ago, and he's a very good pitcher, but he's also very charismatic, and I think he's going to fit in really well whenever he gets here, which might be as soon as September. So we really don't know about prospects. There's a reason they're called prospects. They have a pathway projected for them for success, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it does not. So we'll really have to wait a while, Joel, before we can assess how good those trades were for the Twins.
Fair enough. Well, the reason now that I called you and asked for your time to come on is because of the book that you wrote. I've read it, and I loved it. I think people are going to love this. It's called Game Used, My Life in Stitches with the Minnesota Twins. This is a project that obviously somebody put a bug in your ear, and yet you got the job done. Tell people about this book.
Well, Triumph Books reached out to me 2.5 years ago, something like that, and wondered if I'd be interested in writing a book with a co-author about my life with the Twins. It was part of a series that they were doing called If These Walls Could Talk. I thought about it, I thought better of it, and told them that if I was ever going to do a book, never imagining that I would, that I'd want it to be a standalone type of book. And then they came back a couple of weeks later and said, okay, we'll do it your way. I wrote the book. There was a co-author assigned, but we decided they're my stories. And so for better or worse, I was going to write the stories in the book, and I did. The publisher gave me the autonomy to name the book, format it the way I wanted to. It was a lot of fun to work on. I will tell you one thing, though, that was really surprising to me. I'm used to dealing, as I am now, in the spoken word, right? I'm going to say something, it's out there, and it's over and done with. Well, this was the first time I'd ever written something down and then went back, rewrote it again, read it, rewrote it again, and it was an ongoing process, something I wasn't really used to. But we unfortunately weren't able to do many book signings because of the pandemic. We had one lined up in Dumont a year and a half ago. We're reconstructing it for Saturday, 3 to 6 p.m. at Dumont Park, right off of Highway 75. You can't miss it. And for anybody who bought the book in the last year and a half and wants it signed, I'll be there. And if anybody wants to buy a book, I'll have some for sale. But I'm really, really looking forward to it. My sister is going to be up from Central Missouri to be there because she grew up in Dumont, too.
Well, Dumont's more or less home for me. Been there many times, down in the Wheaton area. I know Dumont doesn't necessarily like, they would say Wheaton's by the Dumont area. I get that.
Hey. When we're from Dumont, we call Wheaton a suburb of Dumont.
That's fair enough. Trust me, that's fair enough. But, to have the opportunity to come and visit with you, describe to people why Dumont is so important to you.
Well, I've been living a blessed life professionally and personally, and so much of what I enjoy now in my later years really started with my childhood in Dumont, whether it's baseball, hunting, or fishing. It all started in Dumont. And as I've told people, when you grow up in a town that small, you don't realize how small it is until you leave there. And in this case, the memories that I have there are so precious. The people who remain there are so dear to me, their influence in my life. Most of them are no longer with us, unfortunately, but the ones who are, my elementary school teacher, Darlis Forcier, still lives in Dumont. I'm really looking forward to seeing her. So the memories that I have from my childhood, as unique as my childhood was, really have helped formulate my adult life, and I know that I'm very blessed to live the life that I live, and so much of it is due to the childhood I had in Dumont. So I'm really looking forward to getting back there.
You talk about roles in life. I can tell you this. My mother, Doreen, who is lost to us now, and my Aunt Memory, who isn't, her sister, the roles that you played in their lives, I've never been shushed more than I was around Mom when she was watching the Minnesota Twins and you were talking in the For What It's Worth category. Tell people one more time what time to be in Dumont this coming Saturday, and tell them where they can find the book if they're not in Dumont.
Yeah, the weather looks really, really good, like partly cloudy, low 70s, perfect baseball weather. So we're going to be there. They're going to have a little bit of a parade through town at 2 o'clock. They put up a sign a couple of years ago acknowledging that I grew up there. We're going to dedicate that at 2:30. The book signing is going to be from 3 to 6. There will be a downtime during those 3 hours. And so I'm going to bring my glove and a ball, and if somebody wants to play catch with a broken down play-by-play guy. As long as my shoulder can withstand it, we'll play catch. There's going to be music there, food, beer, of course, and we're just really going to have a party for about 3 hours, 3 to 6 this coming Saturday. And again, it's in Dumont Park, which was right next to the elementary school that I went to. And you drive on Highway 75 from the north, and you'll drive right by it as you pull into town.
Dick, always good to talk to you. I really appreciate it, and let's do this again another day.
You got it, Joel.
Dick Bremer, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we're heading to Ohio State University with Dakota Rudesill right after this.
Howdy, folks. It's a Kylie Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey-Boss and breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Kylie burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Elmiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
You know, Dakota Rudesill, well, he has roots around you, around where you live. But I have to tell you, this is a man who succeeded at life. And this is somebody that I count on often for information of what happens with our nation around the world. Dakota Rudesill is a professor at Ohio State University at the Mort School of Law. And I get a chance now to visit with him about Afghanistan. Dakota, good to have you back in the rig going down the road with us.
Always great to be here.
Let's talk a little bit. The images of what is going on with, moving people out of Afghanistan aren't good. They draw up images of Saigon. They look as though there was terrible planning. And, of course, it makes it look like we're fearful to get out of that country. I'd love your take on it. How do you think America is coming out of this?
It's looking pretty bad right now. Anybody who's been watching the videos online of, the riots at the airport, crowds overwhelming the airstrip and desperately trying to cling on to the aircraft and whatnot. I mean, it's just, it's terrible. And, there are a number I saw yesterday, up to 15,000 Americans in Afghanistan who need to be evac'd. And there are thousands and thousands of Afghans who helped the United States during the last 20 years who are in peril, and their families are in peril. And I think people are reasonably asking, why wasn't there a better plan, a more realistic plan that could have avoided this? I think a lot of that is going to turn on a better understanding of the intelligence that the United States had, and how that intelligence was interpreted. I served in the intelligence world, and in some respects, it's kind of like weather forecasting. It's never 100% something's going to happen, or very rarely that. It's kind of, there's a 60% chance of this, there's a 25% chance of this. So it's inherently imperfect, and it gets further imperfect when you have humans involved, and the intelligence people, brief senior leaders, and then it gets further complicated when it's briefed to the public. So I think really diving into that and understanding that, will be important to understand, why did we get to this place? But I think we also need to have a firm focus on where we are in the way ahead, just to help as many people as we can.
Well, let's talk about that, because what got us into this war? You were at the Capitol. I mean, on 9/11, you were there, and it's fairly clear, or at least there's an understanding that the plane that went down in Pennsylvania was headed to you. And so when you think about that, when you think about going back in time to 9/11 and what the emotions of this nation were, what do you think about in relation to Afghanistan?
Yeah, well, so often I give thanks for those Americans on Flight 93 who took over that aircraft, and, the result was it crashed in a field in Pennsylvania instead of probably hitting the Capitol building. Where I was a staffer for the Senate Budget Committee working for our great Senator Kent Conrad. And, that's a day I'll never forget. And, I think certainly everybody understood that there'd be a major military effort, intelligence effort, law enforcement effort to find out who carried out 9/11 and to respond. And within a matter of days, it became clear this was Al-Qaeda. They were partially based in Afghanistan, hosted by the Taliban, and that there'd be a major military response against them. Everyone understood that. I think that, if you would have talked to Senator Conrad in, 2001, or me or anybody else in the country, and said, 20 years from now, we're still going to be in Afghanistan. 20 years from now, we will have spent $1 trillion. 2,400 American service members will be dead in that war. And, we'll still be using the same force authorization that Congress passed just a couple of days after 9/11. I think, people at that time would be really shocked to hear that. And so I think, as we think about the humanitarian crisis, we need to remember that. I mean, this has been 2 full decades of involvement in that country.
So you and I are walking down any main street in the United States, and prior to this, prior to President Biden pulling out of Afghanistan, so we're in that mode. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's thinking about it. We grab anyone. Let's say we grab the first 10 people walking down that main street with us and ask them, why are we in Afghanistan? What are they going to say?
Excellent question. I think probably their first answer is going to be because of 9/11. Because Al-Qaeda was based there in Afghanistan when they attacked us, and we need to destroy Al-Qaeda to the greatest ability we can and make sure that never happens again coming out of Afghanistan. And I think by that metric we did well, right? I mean, we attacked Al-Qaeda, dramatically reduced its effectiveness. We've seen no attack anything like 9/11 on that scale, right, in 20 years. And I think that would surprise us back in on September 12th, if we would say we're not going to have another 9/11 in the next 20 years, that would have surprised us back then, right? So I think that the country has done a good job on preventing another 9/11, but along the way, the United States, in kind of fits and starts, and I think without enough long-term planning, also said, hey, we're going to make Afghanistan into a democracy, and we're going to have this be a country that protects human rights as we understand it. We're going to nation build. And, that we did that with partial success for 20 years. And then, of course, as soon as we leave, it all falls apart.
Well, there's no question about that. I mean, if you look at a 20-year war, my daughters are in their mid-30s. They're 14, 15 when all of this is going on. And if you asked them now and said, okay, what was the goal? What is this about? Yeah. They're 10, 15 years old. They're not in on this. And now they're middle-aged women raising kids. And so totally get what you're saying there. Want to talk about your role in the intelligence agencies and where you see this going politically in the Biden administration and playing out in Congress. If you'll still hang with us a little bit, Dakota.
You bet.
We'll be back as we continue down the road right after this.
From Lambeau Field to your living room. Catch all the Green Bay Packers preseason games exclusively on Beck Sports. Available on KRDK, KNDB, or KNDN TV. The Pack take on the Houston Texans August 14th, followed by the New York Jets August 21st, and end off the preseason with the Buffalo Bills August 28th. Check Beck.Sports to find more scheduling and local channel information.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money. So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after hours oasis of sanity.
How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
We're going to finish our conversation in the rig with Dakota Rudesill and continue it on here for a little bit. You heard him talk about his role in the previous segment in the intelligence community and comparing it to being a weatherman, 60%, 20%. When you look at what happened in Afghanistan, the intelligence that went into it, what was the percentage that the government we had built in Afghanistan was going to give up this easy? That the Taliban was going to be able to march through that country and take control of it this fast?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And, based on the public record, we don't know exactly what the intelligence community said. The vast majority of the estimates that they provide to senior leaders are classified. And so, sometimes the intelligence people will put out an unclassified estimate, which is a little bit more vague to protect sources and methods. Sometimes senior leaders will say things, based on some reporting in the New York Times in the last couple of days. It sounds like the intelligence community was indicating that, they thought that the central government would survive for a number of months after the U.S. military pulled out. But then as the summer went on, they started to get more skeptical. The intelligence community started to get more skeptical in their assessments and say it could be quicker than that. And so, coming back to the weather forecasting metaphor, it's kind of like this summer, the CIA, the NSA, the others started to say, we're seeing an increasing chance of rain. And I think that was for reasons, again, we don't understand quite yet, not fully communicated or acted upon, to build a plan, for the worst case scenario and get everybody out, in an orderly fashion.
If the goal was, and you always sit back on a 20-plus year war, the longest war that this nation's ever been in, which I don't know if it's fair to continue to call it a war for all of those years, but you got troops in harm's way. But when you take a look at what the overall goals were, which in the beginning for me was finding Osama bin Laden and giving him what he gave us, which we achieved, and we found him in Pakistan. Once that was achieved, you mentioned that all of a sudden we became nation builders. For these troops that were there, that are saying now, they're coming out and saying that they feel as though their time there was wasted. And others are saying, well, President Biden put us in a position where we now lost the Afghan war. I'd like your take on that.
Yeah, well, first of all, the political context of this is so challenging. It always is. But, something I come back to is that, public opinion had already started to sour on the U.S. presence in Afghanistan back during the George W. Bush administration. And Obama came in, and his plan was, and I served in the Obama administration, the intelligence world, the plan was, we're going to have a surge of troops into Afghanistan. At one point, there were well over 100,000 U.S. service members on the ground in Afghanistan. We're going to have a surge. We're going to do counterinsurgency operations, which includes protecting the people, making them feel secure, that they can be confident in public institutions, they can be confident in democracy. And so, their support would go in the direction of democracy and not backing the Taliban. The Obama administration did the surge for about 2 years, but then didn't want it to go on forever. It was costing a lot. There wasn't a lot of public support. And, I think Obama really wanted to get out too. Our last two presidents, Trump and Biden, explicitly campaigned during their campaigns on getting out of Afghanistan. And so, there just has not been in the White House, right, a sense, we're going to bear any burden, pay any price to stay here forever and make sure that nothing bad ever comes out of Afghanistan again. I mean, I think that was the salutary kind of idea behind this kind of shift to nation building, which was, let's not just play whack-a-mole and go in there and strike Al-Qaeda, when they hit us or when they pop up on the grid, but let's actually reform Afghanistan so it's not a problem anymore. I get that, but I think a lot of people now are coming to the understanding, and a lot of experts, I think, have had this understanding for 20 years, that that's almost impossible, if not impossible, right, for a Western power to completely reform a society which, frankly, is kind of in a Middle Ages level of development. I think it's just too much to do. I think that kind of a more limited counterterrorism mission, whack Al-Qaeda, you go after any terrorists that we detect, right? But, don't try to drag a country from the year 1500 or, 1100, right, into the 21st century.
Well, and a perfect example that we could have learned from that is Russia alone. You don't go into Afghanistan and do what your goals are to do just simply because of the logistics and the way people are. To think that they're going to come around to our way. That's not going to happen in your or my lifetime, and it's not going to happen probably in my grandkids' lifetime. When you look at the overall picture, you mentioned that America had soured on the Afghan war, and that both Trump and Biden had campaigned on getting us out of Afghanistan, I had a call into my radio show from an individual just passionate about the job that Donald Trump had done in Afghanistan versus Joe Biden. And I said to him, I wasn't trying to pick a fight as much as I was trying to get him to respond to the fact that, in Donald Trump's case, he promised we'd get out of Afghanistan. And we didn't. We weren't out of Afghanistan. And then I asked him, was 4 years enough time to be able to accomplish that? There was this long pause, and then there was an acknowledgement that that was plenty of time to accomplish it. So my point in bringing that up is, did you have to do it and just say, look, we're out of here? I mean, there's no question that you could have controlled it better, gotten certain people out better, all of that. But at some point, do you have to say, look, Dakota, we're pulling the pin. We're out of here.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that the fault, if it's going to be found here, is going to be on the end game plan, on what that looks like as U.S. troops draw down and then get out, getting out Americans, getting out Afghans who have helped our country, put their lives at risk, put their families at risk. But I think on departing, it's just, you have to ask yourself, how long are we going to stay on a country that's on the exact opposite side of the planet, again, with kind of a Middle Ages level of development in many places? How long? How many American lives? I mean, we spent $1 trillion there. At some point, I think you're right, you need to leave. And I think that, I think a lot of leaders have recognized that. I mean, to go to the Trump point that your caller made, and again, I try not to get too political, but, ask yourself, right? I mean, if this had happened, right, if the last American troops had left Afghanistan during the Trump administration, right, does anybody really think it would have been less chaotic? I mean, everything that Trump administration did was just shambling and chaotic. And, and you look, actually, when they pulled U.S. support from the Syrian Democratic rebels in Syria a couple of years ago, it looked a lot like this. And in fact, there were the Islamic radicals and the Russian troops, right, taking over American fighting positions in Syria, as the Trump administration ordered this rapid withdrawal. So I think people need to dial down the politics and just try to focus on, let's understand what happened here, and let's focus on keeping people safe.
And I'm sure if we had that same conversation, as you mentioned, with the Kurds, they would say America isn't very good at sticking around and keeping their word, which begs this question. What does the world perceive us as with the imagery of what's happening in Afghanistan?
Yeah, it's not very good. I mean, I think it's very much like, Saigon, 1975. I mean, this is a blow to our prestige. But honestly, I think we bit off way more than we could chew.
Yeah, no question about that. Dakota, always good to visit with you. I appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Dakota Rudesill, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, let's talk about vaccinations. Let's get a chance to visit with Kylie Hall. Kylie is the operations director with NDSU's Department of Public Health, Center for Immunization Research and Education. She's good enough to come on with us often. The goal here is, in both her life and mine, to not be put in a position where we have to have these conversations. So stick around. We're going to do it right after this.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
At Beck Communications, we've been planning for your future. Over the past decade, we've placed nearly 200,000 miles of dedicated fiber optics in the ground. Enough fiber optic strands to circle the world 8 times. Taking no shortcuts, we connected every home and business in our service area with dedicated fiber optics. It's your personal, unrestricted, unthrottled connection to the world. Best of all, this dedicated fiber means you do not share your connection. We call this intimate, dedicated connection Beck Fiber.
You know, I like Kylie Hall. I like how professional she is. I like the job she does. I like her as a person because she's honest and just forthright in terms of the answers she gives. But I think in her case, in my case, it sure would be nice not to talk anytime soon. But that's not going to happen, clearly. Kylie is the operations director for NDSU's Department of Public Health Center for Immunization Research and Education. Let's bring her in for the conversation. Kylie, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having me, Joel, today.
You know, it's not getting done. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's not anybody out there who's trying to tell the truth's fault, but people aren't getting vaccinated.
Yeah, I think we have seen an increase in vaccinations, you know, over the last couple of weeks with the surge in Delta. It's definitely not where we need it to be. We're still encouraging everybody to go get vaccinated. But slowly but surely we are inching up.
Let me give you a scenario, though, of what I'm seeing. I'm at the Twins game on Sunday, right? And this is going to shock you. But I'm going to the stadium a little bit early, and I stop off at Cowboy Jack's to have a beer before I get in there. The waitress comes over, and she starts talking to us about how ridiculous Minnesota's laws are when it comes to vaccine, or it comes to crowds, I should say. I asked her, I said, have you been vaccinated? She said, no. She said, I won't get vaccinated. Or she said, the Food and Drug Administration hasn't approved it. Okay, well, reasonable argument. Many people are making that. But it begs the question right away, which I asked her, which is, will you get vaccinated after they approve it? She paused and she went, probably not. Probably not. Call this a cheap shot, call it whatever you want. But, this individual had Botox shot into her lips to where they were still black and blue. And you could see the needle marks. So the fear of needle or the fear of being injected really didn't sit well with me. So I just got up and left. How do we convince someone like her that they have to be vaccinated unless we tell them that she can't work in a bar without it?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I think it starts with, getting at her main concern. If she's falling back on, the vaccine isn't fully licensed yet, tell me a little bit more about that. What are your safety concerns? And then when she comes back with, no, I still probably wouldn't get it. I would come back at her if we had a good, rapport going, and I would say, well, what would convince you to get the vaccine, and what would change your mind, and try and work off maybe some of those things that she mentions as far as things that would convince her to get vaccinated.
Well, that's because you're a better person than I am. And that's because you have more patience clearly than I do. Was it developed too fast? Is that the reason people don't trust it?
I think that is a reason a lot of people have chosen not to get vaccinated yet. But I think when you sit down with people and you help them understand how was the vaccine created so quickly versus, the concept that it was rushed, I think that they come to an understanding of, it was more that we cut the red tape. The FDA was allowing certain things to occur at the same time, like phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials were able to overlap a little bit. We were in the middle of a pandemic and we had to get this vaccine out if it worked. And so we were allowed to do some things that typically wouldn't happen in a clinical trial. But the notion that it was rushed, I think is incorrect. And that's where we try and explain that to people when we're going out and doing education.
Some of those people, though, that are pushing with me that it was rushed are the same people that were saying, look, these people are going to take forever to develop it. I don't trust scientists to meet the demand that are out there. So, it's a cake and eat it too. It's a knife with, both sides got an edge on it. But, to me, that's a terrible excuse to use as well. Want to talk a little bit about, the FDA in this sense. What more data do they need? You've got hundreds of millions of people vaccinated. You've got the results of what's happened to them. Women are still getting pregnant. People are not dying. The side effects aren't crippling people. I mean, how much more data do they need to come out and take away that excuse?
Yeah, so the full licensure is an in-depth process. So unlike some countries, our FDA actually reviews all the data independently that the manufacturers provide to them. One of the other things that we do when we give full licensure to a product is we go out and we inspect the facilities where the vaccine is made. We look for, cleanliness, things like quality control. And so both Pfizer and Moderna have submitted their paperwork for full licensure. Pfizer's full licensure is expected here in the next couple of weeks, is my understanding, by the first week of September. But we can't just, receive the paperwork one day and then fully approve the vaccine the next day. It's a long process that, is being expedited is the term that we're using, but they still have to undergo a lot of those steps that are necessary to make sure that the product is safe.
There are states that are being slammed right now. And when you think about that, you think about places like Florida and Texas and Louisiana. But yet North Dakota's numbers aren't so great. Where we're at in North Dakota, I'd leave you kind of shaking your head, certainly in comparison to the other states that border us. And so, how do we get across in North Dakota that while we might live apart from each other, in many cases, more isolated, that it's still needed? If you're Doug Burgum, and you want to get across a message to people, and you've got the advice to get in his ear, what would it be, Kylie?
Yeah. I feel like this is deja vu all over again. If you remember last summer, we saw a spike in the southern states because they go inside during the summers because it's so hot. And if you go back and you look at what our numbers were last August 18th, because we lag a day in our reporting, we actually have more cases now than we did at this time last year. And our curve is growing. It's growing by over 100 cases a day. And so my message to Doug Burgum and anybody who'd be willing to listen is, don't let this happen again. We don't want to be compared to the Alabamas and the Mississippis and the Floridas and what they've seen, not only in case counts, but in their hospitalizations. And we're about to go back to school next week. We know how to prevent this. We prevent it with vaccination. We prevent it with masks. Let's not make the same mistake that's happening in the southern states right now.
And I hate going back to my radio show all the time, but it is an opportunity for interaction. And one of the individuals I talked to said that a better vaccine is on the horizon, that he's going to wait for that. Does he know something I don't know?
He knows something even I don't know. So I'm not aware of any vaccines that are on the horizon that have, a phenomenal efficacy and safety record like our mRNA vaccines do. I know of a couple other vaccines that are in phase 3 clinical trials, but to my knowledge, none of their data has come out. And what I would say to that person is, while you're waiting for that, bigger and better vaccine, your chance of being exposed to COVID is extremely high. And you could be that person that has a negative outcome from that infection, and you could prevent that by getting vaccinated today. So I'm not aware of any vaccines that are bigger and better than the vaccines that we currently have, and certainly not as safe.
So what about kids below the age of 12? What are we looking at there? When are my grandkids going to be able to be vaccinated?
Yeah, Joel, I have 2 little kids, and I can't wait for the day that I can vaccinate them against this, because that will, take a huge weight off my shoulders too. Pfizer has told us that you could expect childhood data for their 5 to 11-year-old cohort likely in September. Now, we still need to see the data. Does it look to be safe, and does it look to be effective? If it does, they'll apply for approval in that age group, and that'll likely come maybe later this fall. That's our best hope at this point. Under 5, I think we're looking at midwinter, probably even into next year.
I got a chance to visit with Kirsten Baszler recently, and of course all those decisions are being, I don't know if you'd say thrown or left at the desk of the North Dakota school boards, those individual school districts. And I guess I'm going to ask you your recommendation. If you were on a school board, what would you tell them?
Yeah, my recommendation is our goal as educators, as school board members, is to keep kids in school. And the best way we could do that is by having them masked. We have seen what COVID has done to the education system over the last 18 months. And if we can provide any way for kids to stay in school, I think we should do it. I know that we have politicized masks, but they're just a common sense public health practice. They're the way we keep kids in school and keep them in school safely. So I'd be recommending masks universally in schools.
Kylie, keep that smile on your face and keep talking to people the way you do instead of the way that I do in terms of the frustration that comes along with it. So thanks for coming down the road with us.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Anytime.
When we come back, some closing comments for you right here as we end our trek down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Spas, etc.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you could pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented My Pillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled My Pillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or My Pillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
You know, since I was old enough to remember, I was a Minnesota Viking fan. Go ahead, take your shots now, you Packer fans and Bear fans and everybody else who has won a Super Bowl while my team hasn't. Doesn't change the fact that I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan and will be till the day I die. Because my fear is that right about the time I give up on them, then they are going to win it. So if you hang around with me, if you go into my man cave, you're going to see a whole lot of Viking gear hanging on the walls. Now, the one thing this season is, you know, the Vikings shored up their defense. Keep this in mind for all you folks saying, hey, I just saw the preseason game. They weren't playing anybody. You know, 30 of their starters sat out during that game. And so, I think Coach Zimmer was doing the right thing, not wanting people to get hurt, evaluating some of that new young talent. But keep this in mind. At some point, we need Kirk Cousins to play. He is our quarterback. Love him, hate him, whatever. He's our quarterback. And he will not get vaccinated. He won't. He's made that perfectly clear. The question is, if the NFL required their players to get vaccinated, which I think they legally could do, no different than a school with smallpox, rubella, whatever, measles, mumps, pick one. You know, the fact that you've got a number of vaccinations yourself. So if the NFL told him that, you know what, you have to get vaccinated, what are people like that? What is Kirk Cousins going to say? You know, in his particular case, he isn't going to say, well, there's going to be no bread or no milk or no eggs in the fridge because of the fact that the man's a multimillionaire. He doesn't need the money. He's playing it because of the very goal that I set out in the beginning, which is winning it. So what's going to happen? I know this. I personally believe that anyone who doesn't get vaccinated isn't looking at the science of it. And I also know this, that if Kirk Cousins gets COVID, the Vikings world is going to change. Your chance of attracting COVID is less with the vaccine. Your chance of getting really sick with COVID is less if you've been vaccinated. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to figure out. And if you're the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings and you're to lead that team to the Super Bowl, it would seem to me that you should know that. Good riding with you, folks.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.